Goeiedag, mijn naam is Evan, ik ben migratieprocureur here in America, and ik wil je helpen om immigratiewet te verstaan. Now, I don't always like to piggyback off of Colonel Wyatt's videos or the shorts that he puts up, but I know he doesn't mind, and sometimes I feel the need that I have to as well, if only to hit that same nail on the head from my channel and my perspective, because I think that it's important that you hear it from all sides, especially when we agree on stuff. And the last video short that he put up that I saw was how that he was receiving a lot of comments or emails or social media, however he gets contacted on all the social apps, about how there's confusion because of Afrikaner refugee interviews. Now, not his interviews, but other videos from other YouTubers or other social media, or whatever the case may be. And I wanted to chime in on this because I want to make sure that all of my viewers who are interested in the refugee program, who are inside Africa, and since I have so many new viewers, I just want to make this very clear that I say Afrikaners just for ease of just simply saying Afrikaners. We know that it is not a program solely for Afrikaners. It is for any ethnic minority facing persecution inside Africa. But for the sake of not having to say that over and over again, I simply say Afrikaners. But the point being that for a refugee program, let's be clear about something. You don't need anybody. You don't need anybody. You don't need anything. You don't need myself. You don't need Colonel Wyatt. You don't need YouTube. You don't need interviews. You don't need social media accounts. You need abso-fudging-lutely nothing. If you were to need something, a refugee program would not make sense. If you are desperate to flee persecution in South Africa, then there would be no sense in requiring you to have to go to an attorney for information or for help, to hire someone for information or for help, to do all sorts of things and jump those sorts of hoops that require outside assistance while you're being persecuted. It requires nothing. It requires you to simply go on to the U.S. Embassy's website inside Africa, to read the requirements. If you meet the requirements, to submit that application, and then to patiently wait as you traverse through the system. There is nothing else that you need to do other than show up, be truthful, be honest, and articulate past or a well-founded fear of future persecution. And I say that because it's very different from asylum seekers here, who have this insane burden to prove. Y'all have nothing. You have nothing to worry about. If you're honest, if you're upfront with everything, you're clear about your background, your past, you dot all your I's, you cross all your T's, you don't need any YouTube help, any social media help. There is nothing that you need. This entire program is made simple to navigate by someone who is fleeing persecution. All of the lagniappe, which is a Louisiana term for a little something extra, the interviews that Colonel Wyatt has done in the past, to hear about, well, what about jobs when I get here? Or what about my pets? Or what about A, B, C, or D? All of that is just that. It's a little something extra. It's not something that you need. It might be something you want to hear about, but it's not something you need in order to be a part of this program. And I want to make that clear because, yes, you may be concerned, well, what about housing when I get here? That is a legitimate concern. But if you are really concerned about persecution, threats to life, liberty, assault, battery, rape, severe, extreme, and outrageous conditions that are being imposed upon you by the government or someone the government is unable willing to control, then those are secondary questions that you ask after you get accepted into the program and have the potential to come over. Because if you're fleeing because your life is in danger, that extreme level of conduct, then anything else is something that you'll be willing to deal with when you get here. Now, I'm not saying that those aren't real concerns. You have seen from Colonel Wyatt, and I default to him because he's done the interviews, people who've gone through the program, that all of the nonsense you hear, and I was actually planning on making a video about, again, trolls and racists and idiots who post on this channel, but I saw Colonel Wyatt's video and decided to do this instead. I'll get back on that one tomorrow. But all of the stuff you see, all the negative stuff, is just that. It's negative nonsense and it's garbage. You will be taken care of. You will get on your feet and you will be a contributing member of society here in the United States. But to know about that is one thing. To want to know is one thing. But to say I can't make my decision until I know about it, well, then we really have to ask, are you actually facing persecution? Because if you are, then the answer is you need to go and you need to leave now and do as much as you can to get out as fast as possible. But all that being said, none of this should confuse you to a point where you don't know what to do. Because all you have to do is go to the website, follow the directions. Once you get passed off to one of the referring agencies, whether that's Church World Services or Amerikaners, or with the contract groups that do the initial screenings, you follow their directions, what they tell you to do, and then you eventually go to USCIS, you go to those interviews, you do the medicals, you do the backgrounds, and you get accepted into the program. You don't need me, you don't need anyone, you don't need anything. You can do this entirely by yourself without asking or seeking or looking for any help for anyone. All those questions you might have concerns about post refugee, what happens when you get here, are questions to be answered once you're in the program, and will be answered by people as you progress through the program, and you could ask. One of the main reasons why I don't join a lot of the Signal groups or WhatsApp groups or these groups that get sent to me is because I get asked a lot of questions and I don't have an answer for it, and it's easier for me to not get involved in these groups than to say I don't have an answer. Because guess what? I'm not the government. I'm not USCIS. I'm not Church World Services. I'm not Amerikaners. I'm not any of these groups. I can only do what you can do. I can go to the website. I can look at the requirements. I can see what it says. I can email Amerikaners, which I have in the past, and they've been great in answering a lot of the questions viewers here have. But this is not an asylum program here in the United States where I absolutely think you do need an attorney. You do need representation. And that's a different story here in the States. But for the refugee program, stop worrying about getting confused and what these interviews and things say, because from entrance into the interest into the program to being a refugee and being in the United States, it is designed for you to be able to do it by yourself. What happens if you were persecuted to the point where there was no internet? Would you be crying about not being able to see interviews, or these interviews are confusing me, or what happens, with my social security number when I get to the United States, or am I going to have a job? Is that what's concerning you, or is concerning you fleeing for your life? Fleeing persecution, right? So all of this is helpful. All of this is certainly interesting to see for people. And I love watching Colonel Wyatt's interviews with, refugees and people who've gone through the program, because I think it does educate us a lot as to what's going on. But it's not necessary. So this, you have to do your homework, you have to educate yourself, but the only real source that you can default to with 100% certainty is the U.S. government, is the U.S. Embassy's website, then it's their referring agencies and what they have to say, then it's USCIS. So all of this is, just like I said, it's Louisiana Lagniappe. It's a little something extra that can help, but is not necessary for you to be able to progress this program. So I hope this channel helps. I truly do. I'm going to continue to post this channel regardless of what goes on. I have a lot of things to say, especially against the racists and trolls and idiots who post on this channel, about my support for Afrikaners and this refugee program and asylum seekers, and my support for an Afrikaner autonomous homeland or zone. You've heard me talk about that in previous videos, but I don't care. So I'm going to continue to post about that and any refugee questions that come up. But I just wanted to make this clear that, remember, you don't need anyone. You need nothing but your own calm, collected self to express and articulate your past persecution or well-founded fear of future persecution in order to become a refugee. So hopefully this helps. Remember to like, subscribe, share, and I'll see you for the next video.